Well, hello there, friends. Thanks for clicking on this video and I guess joining in on what is a continuation of the experimenting with black powder and rusting. Now, after the previous video, I've gone through a few of the comments, and some have suggested I should do the same test with Pyrex in 777. Well, it was my game plan all along to do that. What I've been waiting for is just for the temperatures to dry out a little bit, get a little bit more warmer. Depending on when this gets up on my YouTube channel, we're expecting more rain. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the burn today, and I'm going to put everything inside my other shop and get it out of the direct ambient temperatures as I did with the burning of the black powder. Now, there was another comment that I read that had mentioned that Pyrex is real corrosive. Well, let's bear in mind, we all know that Pyrex is not a true black powder, but it's a black powder substitute. So the chemical configuration is different than black powder. And what that is, I really don't know. I really don't care, because in all the years that I've been burning Pyrex, I've not been disappointed with it at all. Okay. Now, I know there's going to be a whole bunch of contradicting comments and thoughts. That's fine. You're more than welcome to contradict anything you want. But these statements are based on my personal experience. Okay? So when I first got into black powder guns, as I've mentioned before, I built my first cap and ball revolver when I was 18. That was in 1979. And at that time, I couldn't locate any true black powder. All I could get was Pyrex. Okay? And at that time, I had heard, you know, from a lot of people that I was hanging around, that how corrosive black powder, and I'm speaking true black powder, not the Pyrex substitute, how corrosive it was. You want to clean your guns. So I really became mindful of, and probably a little too anal about cleaning my black powder guns. But what I did way back then is I decided to challenge what I was being told. So I would shoot my cap and ball revolver, at that time a .58 Remington, and I let my gun set for a week. And I checked it, and I could not readily observe the rusting or the corrosiveness that I was being led to believe. So then I let it go 2 weeks, and I still did not see it. Now, bear in mind, I am fully aware that the formula from 1979 till now could have changed. And I actually had this for quite a while because the price tag on top of it is $14.99. So you can see I've had this pound of Pyrex for a while. And in fact, I was looking at one of my 4F, my Elephant 4F. I bought that in 2000. So that tells you how long I've had that 4F, because I've been burning like all my GoX 4F, and this is the last of the 4F I've actually got right now. And it's almost a full pound. But with all of that being stated, what I want to do is I do want to do some more burning. You can't see my anvil yet, but I've got 4 separate square pieces of metal like this, polished off. That little black in here is just a little bit of the paint that's left on the metal. So I'm going to burn these 4 gunpowders, Pyrex 777, again, my homemade gunpowder with alligator juniper and Schutzen. Now, there was another comment in the comment section that said, I should burn more, I should burn more. Well, I'll go 30 grains, but whether you burn 20 grains, 10 grains, 100 grains, the rusting process has already begun, because it's the fire, it's the burning of those chemicals that actually start the rusting process. Okay? And when I get done recording this, I'm going to go back into my shop because I've come to the point now that I want to clean, and I'd already had this in mind. Once I buffed everything with that steel wool, I wanted to go back through and clean those previously burnt powders with the solution that I clean my guns with. So once I get this burn done, I'll go in there and we'll see how that cleans up after a couple of weeks. Here's 30 grains of Schützen. Okay, if you guys can focus, this is Schützen, and you can still see those little white specks. So I'm going to label this with the S, probably right here for Schützen, and get set up and do the next burn. Okay, here's 30 grains of my juniper. Alrighty, that's what it looks like. And yes, there's little tiny white flakes. But there's the juniper. So here's the Pyrex. And as one would have expected, it burns slow. And there's the close-up of the Pyrex, and I'll tell you, there's little chunks of white stuff on it. There again, I don't know how this synthetic black powder substitute is made, but again, I'm seeing little white specks. So let me get this marked with a P, and then I'll get set up and we'll burn the 777. Okay, here's the 777. Alright, there's the 777. That's dirty. That's got a whole lot of specks on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this one marked, and I'm going to do a lineup in the full sun of all 4 of these, and then you can see initially whether these are cleaner or dirty or burning. So let me get set up and we'll review that at that time. But yeah, guys, this is pretty dirty. But is it corrosive? As corrosive as black powder. Okay, there's the 4 bare pieces of metal with the burnt gunpowder. Again, just looking at the juniper, from what I'm seeing right here, it's even clean and burning than the Schützen. Maybe more thoroughly burnt. There's the 777. Try to get in and move around a little bit to try to get some different angles. And here's the Pyrex. There's a lot of particles left behind on all the gunpowders except for my juniper. Now I can imagine someone's going to say, you're just biased. You're biased. Well, you're welcome to hold that opinion. I'm just telling you what I'm observing with my own eyes. Okay, so I'm going to turn these a little bit more in the sun like this, because I want you guys to really get a good thorough look. Okay, once again, there's my juniper. To me, it looks like everything is, you know, much more thoroughly burnt. Here's the Pyrex. Yeah, I'm telling you right now, there's a lot of little particles left behind with the Pyrex. And even more so left behind with the 777. I don't know how well the camera's picking it up or how well you friends are observing this for yourself. I'm hoping you guys can see what I'm seeing. It's clearly, now here's the Schützen. And there are particles left behind, but not near as much as the 777 or the Pyrex, and my gunpowder has even less left behind than the Schutzen. So, and I can imagine at this point somebody's going to say, well, you're just biased, you're just biased. Well, I'm just telling you, friends, what I'm observing with my own two eyes. Alright, let's get on to the next portion of this video. Alright, so here's the 4 pieces of metal with the burnt powder on them. They're going to sit right here for at least a week minimum. Now in the comment section somebody had asked or talked about cleaning these gunpowders after a couple of weeks. Well, it's been 8, 9, 10, 11 days already as the recording of this, and I'm going to clean those today. But before I get into that, I just want to show you guys something. When I burnt the bare potassium nitrate, and I had done that a couple of times, and then I mixed everything, burnt the sulfur. I just kind of want to show you what that plate looks like right now, because I was a little intrigued. And bear in mind, you have to know the difference between what is a surface rust, slow rusting, and a very fast corrosive rusting is. So here's the plate that I used to burn the potassium nitrate and the sulfur. If you guys can look at this, I try to turn it different angles, and I'm hoping you guys can see it. All this rust right here on the edges, that's just surface rust. This rust right here has got a buildup on it, like it's gonna eat through the metal in time. And then what's even more interesting, underneath the potassium nitrate, no rusting as of yet. So I find that interesting. But just looking at it and, you know, bearing in mind what the context was of this burn, you can certainly see the amount of heat that was used and how the heat can change the composition of the metal. And in fact, you can probably see the bottom of it and see it discolored the bottom of it. So I got this pretty hot. And that's my observation. You can take it for what it's worth. Doesn't matter. But I'm telling you what I'm looking at and knowing rust, being a blacksmith, having metal out all the time, I know the clear difference between what is the surface rust and what is completely your most corrosive form of rust. Okay, so with that thought in mind, before I get to cleaning this, something else that I want to note. In all my knife making, I made a jig so that when I want to cut a knife or file a knife at different, let me get this opened up here real quick, at different angles, I slide the blade in there, and then this allows me to cut different angles as it goes into the guard. Okay, now I made this myself years and years and years ago, and I don't use it all that often anymore because I've got enough of a collection of knives that when I go to rendezvous I don't have to make knives to go to rendezvous. But I want to tell you, because I want you to observe this, okay, because this has a lot to do with the cleaning of your black powder guns, and in particular your revolvers, and more precisely the Colt style revolvers. Because in general the Remingtons do not have any case hardened frames. Okay, now I do know that you can buy some specifically now that are color case hardened, and they're gorgeous firearms, gorgeous guns, but that's not what I'm speaking about. Now I've observed, since I've been on YouTube watching everybody's gun videos, shooting videos, your preferences, the Colts over Remingtons and everything else. You have to bear in mind that with the frames of the Colt style revolvers, those are case hardened. So you're actually putting a protective barrier over the surface of that receiver, okay? And I've heard a lot of people say, yeah, you know, I don't tear the gun down every time. I, you know, go 3, 4, 5, 6 shooting sessions. Then I'll tear it down and clean out the inside where all the mechanism is, the trigger, the handspring, the trigger bolt spring, and even the hammer itself, which is fine. But that's not to misinterpret what may or may not be happening. Because I understand when you guys take those guns down, you clean the barrels thoroughly, you clean the cylinders thoroughly, but you tend to spray like a ballistol inside that frame area, which is a rust inhibitor. I get that, I understand that, I have no problem with that. For me, after every shooting session, I want to tear my revolvers down to the bare necessities. I mean, everything. Because especially with the Colt style revolvers, you don't want to leave pieces of cap that may have inadvertently fallen into the mechanism, because in my case, when I go out in the field and I have to draw my gun, I don't want to have a little, what, oh, I didn't clean it out and I'm hung up on a cap. So that's why I clean my guns every single time and tear them right down to the bare metal. Plus, I don't know how long I'm going to let those guns set once I clean them and set them. You know, I might let them set for 6, 7 months before I pick it up and shoot it again, especially when I have the collection that I have now. But the point that I'm getting at is that when I made this jig, I case hardened this. Now, I've had this jig in my shop for years and years and years. I don't put it in a drawer. I just leave it on my bench and it just stays there. So if it gets a little bit of rain on it, a little bit of moisture, so be it, because I only use this as a guide when I'm trying to cut an angle in a knife blade. But I do want to show you guys something, because this is case hardened. Okay? This is case hardened. I want to take this apart and I want to show you what it looks like between the two pieces of metal. So just because something's case hardened does not mean that it is a true rust inhibitor. Okay? That's why I kind of get anal about cleaning my guns, besides the aforementioned making sure that there's no pieces of cap that's worked its way into the action. So, take it with a grain of salt. Honestly, I'm not telling you guys how to clean your guns, how to take care of your guns. I'm just showing you from my experience as opposed to what I hear others stating. And I'll agree, spraying it with ballistol is a really good way to offset the time that you would have to spend cleaning it. But at the same time, I'm referencing my 62 Pocket Navy that I got, and when I first got that gun, the action was very, very hard and very, very stiff. Well, when I finally got to cleaning that gun, it had years and years and years of caked on black powder. Fortunately, it didn't rust. But there again, these are your guns. You do what you want with them. This is how I care for my tools. Okay? So, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to mix 3 equal parts of my Murphy's oil soap, rubbing alcohol, and hydrogen peroxide. That's how I clean all my guns. Unless I'm in the field, then I'll just take a wet rag and just run a wet rag down through it and kind of clean everything up and do this process when I get home. So I'm going to mix up 3 equal parts. I'm going to stir it up so it's really good and mixed, and then I'll take a rag and we'll start cleaning the surfaces here. And before I do this, it should be noted, do not mix up a bunch of this cleaning solution and let it stay around in a glass jar, any type of jars. There's a reason why hydrogen peroxide is in a dark container. it prevents it from evaporating. Now imagine if you had a hydrogen source of component that allows a big boom, if you will. So bear that in mind. Do not mix up a bunch of this and let it stay around in particular a glass jar, because there's a reason why they keep hydrogen peroxide in a dark container. Alright, I'm going to get this mixed up and then turn the camera back on, and we'll see after this amount of time how well these gunpowders clean up. Okay, I have it mixed up. Dab my rag in it, and I'm just going to coat the top of everything. I'm going to let it do what I normally let it do when I clean my guns. I'll leave it set for a minute or two. Let the peroxide get to do its thing, the soap to do its thing. Not much, not that the soap really does a whole lot right now, but it's mostly the peroxide that helps in the cleaning process. Okay, you probably can't see the bottom of the container, but I took the rag and squeezed off what was transferred from the burnt powder, so you can see that it is, whoops, cleaning a little bit. And this is actually how I clean my nipples, my cones on my revolvers. I'll take them off and I'll just set them in that container, and I'll just let the peroxide do its thing. Now, I don't know what to expect at this point, just simply because I don't let my guns go more than a day without cleaning them. These have been here for, what's it, 8, 9, 10, 11 days already, 12 days maybe. And that's with the tin pan. It's been even less time with the bare metal. Alright, let's take the rag that's got the cleaning components on it and start with the HP 38. Okay, you guys can see I'm using good scrubbing action. Dry it off. And it looks like just the edges have got some of the fouling or some of the little bit of rusting left behind. So it did a good job in cleaning that up. Now comes the Trail Boss. Did even a better job of cleaning it up. Now remember, this is on a tin coated plate. So how much has the tin recessed the rusting. Alright, now for my juniper. Not bad. Not bad at all. Now for the Go-X. Well, you can certainly see, I hope, what the burning of the Go-X did to the tin. It did discolor the tin. I don't know how well you guys can see it reflecting, but I'm going to just rub it down one more time and see if I can do a better job cleaning on the tin. I'm going to do them all. Well, looking at everything closer, guys, I can tell you that the HP 38 discolored the tin coating. Not as much as the GoX did. Not as much. You can really see, I'm hoping, that GoX did discolor the tin. And there, once again, my Juniper didn't discolor it, and neither did the Trail Boss. Now, let's see what this has done on the bare metal. First, HP 38, bare metal. It's there's rusting right there, guys. Complete discoloration. Turn it towards the sun and get a little bit of a reflection on it. Okay, now comes the Trail Boss. Same type of discoloration. Not as much as the HP 38, but the discoloration is still there on the bare metal. Now for my Juniper, which there ain't much there anyways because it was already cleaned off. Let me get this little edge piece, which I thought was cross-contamination from the Schutzen, and I'm still convinced that that's a cross-contamination. Okay, now comes the Schutzen. And just for argument's sake, guys, I'm going to dip the rag a little bit more, and I want to give Schutzen every opportunity to clean on bare metal as possible. You can see the speckles left behind. Let me do it again, because I want to be fair. You know, I wouldn't want to have any bias towards, you know, these factory gunpowders. Nothing changed. That's the corrosive nature of your gunpowders, especially the Schutzen. Now, again, I say this in all jest, just simply because this is my Juniper that's going to sit out here for a week or more. And this is the Schutzen. I showed you earlier, side by side, my Juniper gunpowder appears to be a much thorough burning gunpowder. But I will admit, as before, seems to be an awful lot of smoke left behind. So, is that an indication of a more thorough burning? You guys judge for yourselves. I'm just doing some tests here so that somebody can, you know, benefit from what's being presented. So I'm going to get this into the editing program since my battery's about to die. And just to give you guys a little bit of a heads up here, I am going to be making some gunpowder. I've got it in the ball mill right now with my Juniper charcoal, and I made myself a 1-inch pucking die. And as time progresses, I'll record some of that. Whether that ends up in this particular video or not, only time will tell. So I'll say adios for now. So here's some filler. A while back I did a video regarding the specific gravity of the woods and the charcoal. And at that time I could not find any information to what the specific gravity of the barberry is, or, you know, like I mentioned, they call it mountain mahogany or argyrieta. So what I decided to do is do another clear jar comparison, and willow is the control, since we know that willow has a specific gravity of 0.39. So let's see if I can figure out with a reasonable guess what the specific gravity of barberry is. So there's the control, there's the willow, 15 grams, and it has a specific gravity of 0.39. Okay, so next I'm going to go to the basswood. I'm going to put that right up next to the willow. Basswood, and there's no specific density to it. The information that I found, it ranges anywhere from 0.32 to 0.42. But at least right here, the basswood that I have, we can kind of guess what it is. Since willow is 0.39, this has to be somewhere closer to the 0.42, because if it was close to 0.49, it would be about the same level across. So I'm guessing that this basswood is really closer to the 0.42, which gets us a whole lot closer to the European alder at 0.43, or the buckthorn alder is 0.50. Looking at the chart that I have right here, yeah, silver leaf maple is 0.53, red cedar is 0.48, and what I will do, as soon as I get enough jars cleared out, I will do the basswood comparison to the red cedar. So there's the maple, and the maple is 0.63, so it's quite a bit heavier, obviously, than the willow. Now here comes the basswood. I'm going to put the basswood right next to the maple, and you can see that the basswood is lighter than the maple. Now I'm going to get the barberry in next to the willow, and we'll see what that is. So there's the barberry. As we can see, it's a lot heavier with the specific gravity than the willow is. But I kind of want to know about what the specific gravity of barberry is. So what I need to do is put the maple next to it and see how that compares. So I'm going to move the willow off to the left, and I'm going to put the maple left of the jar. That's the barberry. Well, friends, I think that sufficiently answers the question. It's right in line with the maple, so it should be somewhere near 0.63, which actually makes it a very heavy charcoal for gunpowder. I know my tests have shown that it shoots pretty well. It is dirty, but it groups very nicely. So what I'm going to do here, just for the heck of it, once again, I'm going to put the Eastern Red Cedar that we know has a specific gravity of 0.48 next to the basswood. So the basswood is on the left, and the Eastern Red Cedar is on the right. So since we know the specific gravity of Eastern Red Cedar is 0.48, and basswood is supposed to be somewhere from 0.32 to 0.42, I would guess that this particular basswood that I've used is right at the 0.42, which would really make a good charcoal for your gunpowder, since European alder is at 0.43. Okay, back on with what's on the program. So here's the next piece of filler material. The previous video, we've all watched what the sulfur does by itself when a torch is taken to it, and we've all seen what the potassium nitrate does when a torch is taken to it. And we already know by combination what the three components, how they react to a spark or a heat source. Boom. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you what the charcoal does with the sulfur by itself. I'm going to be using my basswood, and I always strain my charcoal through a very, very fine micro mesh, just simply because, as I've stated before and I've showed in previous videos, those little silver flakes that I get left behind. Now, whether they're, you know, chunks of tin that's burning out of the can, or whether it's actually like a creosote building up, I don't know, but this does get it out of the mix. So I'm going to get that mixed up. I'm going to use probably 1 spoon of charcoal and 1 spoon of sulfur, just so we can see how it burns. So let me get that set up, and we'll turn the camera back on so you can see it. So I'm going to give you guys a close-up. Any guesses as to what you think's going to happen? Now bear in mind, all I did was just mix it with a matchstick. So let's see what it does. I don't know if you guys can readily see it, but there's a very, very low blue flame covering everything. So I'm going to kind of stir it up and watch what it does. Can you see the blue flame? That's the sulfur reacting with the charcoal. I'm hoping you guys can see the blue flame. It's very shallow. It's not a tall one, obviously. So since it's the sulfur that's actually burning in conjunction with the charcoal, I'm wondering if that's why I'm getting a more thorough burn, since I put 11 grams of sulfur in my mix. There's a much close-up view, and you can see how the sulfur does ball up with the charcoal. That's the sulfur burning with the charcoal. So here's the charcoal mixed with the potassium nitrate, and I gotta be honest, I don't know what to expect with this. Interesting how it all bubbled up. and notice the little specks left behind. Now you can see all the specks left behind, so for those of you that still might be wondering what's those little white specks, I'm squarely of the mind that it's the potassium nitrate. But once again, let me reiterate, this is an open air burn. This is not a burn under compression. Big difference.